Thank you, Senator. Senator Daines.
Chair Murkowski, thank you. Assistant Secretary Kirkland, thanks for your testimony earlier. Going back to your confirmation hearing, we discussed Montana's final Indian water settlement, the Northern Montana Water Security Act. You mentioned, in fact, memories of hauling water across the Navajo Nation with your grandmother. You understand the challenges and the necessity of securing water rights and access in Indian country. You also committed to working with Congress to ensure the federal government upholds its trust and treaty obligations, which includes protecting water rights, and I want to make sure we hold each other accountable to that. During President Trump's first term, his support was instrumental in enacting the Montana Water Rights Protection Act to settle the Confederate Salish and Kootenai tribes' water claims. These are century-long fights, as you well know. Some of the toughest fights are water fights, and some of the most interesting fights it gets into treaty rights as well. They recently reached a major milestone. This is going back to the Salish Kootenai Compact that the Trump administration, Trump 45, got done. The president signed. We finally got the Montana Water Court's final order approving that compact last week. This is a big win for our farmers, our ranchers, the tribe, and the federal government, and for President Trump. This action by Congress and the court now brings certainty to all water users in the region. There's a lot of false information spread up in that part of our state. It's just not true. And we're grateful, working with President Trump, we got this thing signed, and the court just affirmed it in Montana again last week. Had we not gotten this done, the alternative was almost unthinkable. Without a settlement, the majority of the water right claims in Montana would have been litigated over several decades, and that's thousands of water right claims. And as we know, the courts are increasingly sympathetic to the treaty rights that oftentimes predate statehood. Non-tribal water users would have faced unprecedented uncertainty and possibly seen diminished access and would have cost the federal government an untold amount of money. Now, the Fort Belknap, alongside the many farmers and ranchers who rely on the Milk River to make a living, want to bring the same certainty to their region. It's the last water compact to be settled in Montana history. Assistant Secretary Kirkland, do you support the idea of settling rather than litigating Indian water rights claims?
Senator, the department supports the idea of settling any and all water settlement claims that we can.
And we've seen, if we don't settle, obviously very expensive. That's like a lot of lawyers wear really nice suits. So it's a lot of legal fees. And then the uncertainty and losing those water rights, if the litigation proceeds, the risk of losing water rights for our ag economy in a place like Montana is very real and it's significant. And there's a clear blueprint to getting this done. I want to work with the Trump administration to build off these past models of success. None of these are ever easy. I experienced that myself under Trump 45, like the Salish Kootenai, CSKT Compact, we call it, and to move forward and enact the Northern Montana Water Security Act. One thing that's sometimes lost in translation here in Washington, in a place that gets 41 inches of rain every year, I didn't realize what rain was all about. I know Senator Murkowski sees a lot of it in Alaska, and we envy her precipitation. But they get more rain here than in Seattle by a small amount, because when it rains here, it rains an inch or two at a time, it seems. Where we are battling in this last water right claim, and these last tribal rights, is an area of our state that gets 12 to 15 inches of rain a year. It's a semi-arid environment, and that's why water is so critical to keep things going. My distinguished colleague here from Oklahoma can nod his head because they know what it means to live in a state that doesn't get a whole lot of rain. Montana, similarly, is a state that doesn't get a whole lot of rain in most of it. Assistant Secretary Kirkland, time's of the essence on the issue. Can we work together and push to get this done this year?
Senator, I know you just recently spoke to the Secretary Burgum on this as well, and I'll echo him that we'll continue to work with you and the committee on settling all enacted water rights.
We're going to name a town in Montana called Bergamville if we get this done. I'll tell the secretary that.
I'm just going to ask for a street.
Okay, we'll give you a street. We'll give you a post office if you need it. Just let me know. This is about water security for tribal and non-tribal water users. It's for infrastructure for Montana agriculture and certainty for future generations of Montanans. These are legacy kind of decisions we can make and move forward and settle it and not put this on the backs of our children and grandchildren. The bill I have ensures long-term stability across the High Line of Montana and upholds the federal government's trust responsibility. It is past time to get this done. Thank you for your comments, Secretary Kirkland.
Thank you, Senator Daines. Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Kirkland, at your confirmation hearing last year, we discussed the importance of Indian water rights settlements, and I was critical that the Trump administration had proposed $0 for the Navajo-Gallup water supply project. Do you recall that?
Yes, Senator.
After that, I worked with my colleagues, and I want to thank every one of my Republican colleagues and Democratic colleagues and the staff, because since the administration didn't provide any dollars, we were able to work. We got $55 million in congressionally directed spending for the project. We worked to raise the cap on reclamation water settlement funds to access an additional $120 million. And as you know, and I shared with you, failure to do so would have meant the first Indian water rights settlement to fail. And I know what everyone else knows. Once there's a first, there'll be a second. Mr. Kirkland, do you know how much money was proposed in President Trump's budget for the Navajo-Gallup water supply project for FY27?
Senator, I'm happy to, and I know that my colleague Scott Cameron recently came up and spoke to you as well, and you guys talked about
the answer is
Navajo
simple,
Gallup,
sir. It's
$0.
$0.
I'm actually very here to talk about Indian Affairs budget and the budget request.
Mr. Secretary, do you advise the Secretary or the President when it comes to your work and the priorities that you have for tribes across the country, budgetarily?
Senator, I give the President and the Secretary advice on issues affecting the Native communities, and I'd really like to work with you. I'd really like to work with you as well on the water.
Mr. Secretary, do water settlements affect Native communities?
Yes, and I hope that you will fully fund the Wallapai water settlement.
We're here to talk about water settlements,
Let's
sir.
talk about
you just had a wonderful conversation with my colleague from Montana.
$million that we put in the budget that we're looking to.
Okay.
Because you mentioned it, Senator. You said that if we let one go,
reclaiming my
they're
time.
all going to go.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to submit the budget into the record if it's not already in there. There's $0 for this project again. So I'm going to come visit with you in your office. I'm going to visit with your staff in your office. I'm going to go visit with the Dems in their office. I'm going to go visit with Chairman Cole, everyone that we can. Since the President didn't put any money in, and Mr. Secretary, please, for this water settlement now in Montana, let's get the money for it. Let's get the money for all of these, and let's get it done. This is something we all agree on, Democrats and Republicans across the country. Mr. Secretary, how many times have you sat with the working group on Indian water rights settlements, which you're a member of?
I've met with the group a number of times, as well as multiple tribes on specific water settlements and water rights. And I'd just like to also appreciate and work with you to make sure that we fully fund the Wallapai water settlement as well. I think they've received $150,000 up to this point of nearly $330 million that are due to 2029.
I hope that we don't see any water settlements fail and that we can work together, get the technical support required. Mr. Fulton, I want to thank you. You recently visited New Mexico, and there's a great picture of you here visiting with some of the leadership from the Navajo Nation, the Department of Health. There's two issues I want to raise. One, as you know, one of the elevators isn't working over that way. And I had received a response from someone on your staff on Monday that said patient safety is a priority and that they would work on this as quickly as possible. But they highlighted in the email that one elevator is not sufficient to fully support patient care needs in the building. What I'd like is a full briefing for this committee, for myself, timeline, when that's going to be done, if it's about patient safety, things of that nature. And then second, if if I could also ask for a timely briefing on the timeline associated with the Gallup Indian Medical Center, because as you're aware, the project is not on this list again for projects this year. So this is the second time under this administration that the project's been jumped over. And if I'm not mistaken, all the coverage from the meeting was all positive and said that this was a priority project. We'd get it done. It wouldn't be skipped again. But if we could just get some information where it is on the list, how we can get this done, and things of that nature, I'd certainly appreciate it, sir.
I'd be more than happy to provide
I look
those.
forward to that. Mr. Kirkland, I was also told that in addition to sitting on the working group, you oversee the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Bureau of Indian Affairs Education, Bureau of Indian Affairs Trust Funds Administration, serving hundreds of federally recognized tribes across the country, that your responsibilities as Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs, in addition to that, that Secretary Burgum also nominated you to serve concurrently as Associate Commissioner of the National Indian Gaming Commission. Is that correct?
I've been nominated to serve as a vice associate. Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is a position with its own distinct statutory mandate, its own oversight responsibilities, its own docket of decisions affecting tribal sovereignty and economic development. Is it fair to say they're both full-time jobs?
I think it's fair to say, sir, that we had a unprecedented resignation that has put a lot of tribes and tribal economies and economic development at risk. And we want to make sure that gap is full as possible. And we want to make sure that the duties that the committee is responsible for can take place. And we're going to look to hire and fill those vacancies as soon as possible. In the meantime, I will ensure that things like contracts can be put in place, management contracts, and other operations that the committee can fully operate.
Mr. Secretary, Madam Chair, what I'm asking is if you can get a letter to this committee soon, not 120 days, telling us how you're going to do both jobs and how the responsibilities you have as Deputy Secretary of Indian Affairs are not going to fall aside. And one of the concerns that I have is, on one side, your responsibilities are to advocate for the tribes, and on the other hand, this administration has taken a different position on prediction markets. The tribes have been suing, man. You're at odds here. I don't know how you're going to do it. I look forward to reading about it and having certainty that your primary job as Deputy Secretary of Indian Affairs, you're going to live up to those trust responsibilities. So I very much look forward to learning about this and seeing how these efficiencies can be created. I thank you for the time, Madam Chair.
I'm sure you do, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And know that on the water settlements, and not only do I hear you, we've had good conversation. And you're right, whether it's water settlements that Senator Daines is concerned about or coming out of your state of New Mexico, we have got to address them. Lots of work goes into getting to the settlement, but the settlement is nothing more than a piece of paper if we are not actually working to put those dollars in. So know that we'll be in contact there. We'll go into a second round here, hopefully not too many more. Assistant Secretary, you mentioned probate and the effort that the administration is doing to modernize what we can do within the probate accounts to help reduce the backlog. I've talked to you about it. I've talked to Secretary Burgum about it. Everybody is giving their commitment. I know that we're moving forward with this effort, but my concern is that we're hearing that all this is taking place, but I'm not seeing that we've actually done anything yet to help reduce that backlog and to actually get these probates completed for these families. So I would just ask for an accounting from you and your team about just how you anticipate this backlog to be addressed. You know what you're trying to do with the modernization. You know how long it's going to take to get these systems in place, recognizing the 47,000 cases that are pending across the country. I want an estimate as to how long you're anticipating it's going to be to catch up with your backlog so that as a committee, we can be monitoring this, because right now, what I'm getting is an assurance that don't worry, we're working to update our systems. But what is worrying me is the same constituents are coming to me and saying, we've heard that, but we still don't know where we are in our case. I'm told we're going to have this dashboard type of an approach where people can check in and follow their cases. That's good, but can you give us more metrics in terms of when people can expect this and then to actually see us moving through their respective cases?
Thank you for the question, Senator. And I look, you're right to be concerned. You've been on the committee for a while, and this isn't a new problem. So I'm sure you've heard time and time again individuals come up here and say, we're going to fix the problem. We've got this under control. So until you actually see numbers moving, you're very right to be concerned. We're concerned. That's why it was made a priority. Unfortunately, in order to actually work at chopping the problem down one at a time, we had to figure out actually how in-depth the problem was, and that took for a while for us to get our hands on. I believe a couple years ago, in front of this committee, Indian Affairs actually said it was going to take $60+ million and 5 to 7 years to get their hands wrapped around the problem and the backlog altogether. We are in the process of having that understanding the full scope of the problem by the end of July. So we're going to be able to know what cases are where in the process, what cases are missing what families maybe only have one document that is missing from their probate case in order to close it. You mentioned 47,000 cases that are backed up, which is a very high number. Even more astounding is that's upwards of $770 million of American money of Alaska Natives and Native Americans, that money they could have that they need today, whether that's to buy a home or to invest in their children's education. You mentioned you're still talking to people that are in issues. I never thought it was possible that I actually met individuals who they were working on waiting for probates of their dead family members that were still waiting on probate. It's a generational problem. For the first time ever, it's almost unconscionable that in an age and a system where you could order the committee dinner on an app, these individuals can't look and track their probate cases. So not only now will probate cases be able to be tracked, they're going to be able to submit these probate cases online or via their phone. This was something that was my first trip to Alaska was last month.
Well, but again, it's one thing to be able to submit them, but if it's not going anywhere, and that's been the problem, we can submit them by way of a paper copy, and it goes in
when those submissions come in via paper copy, it's still antiquated, and that's how it's being tracked. Yeah. That's how everything's being looked at. So you've got a system where we might have a regional office or an agency, and they're going through a filing system to find out what's there. So by the end of July, through the new technology, through AI, through the folks that are being trained on the processes right now, they're going to be able to look in Alaska. They're going to be able to say, okay, let's reach out to Senator Murkowski's team in Alaska and let her know that of those 7,000 probate cases that are backlogged, 5,000 of them are missing one document. This is the one document they're missing. Let's work with those individuals in the state to ensure that one document can be...
And this is where, and I'm going to interrupt because my time has expired, and I want to ask others if they have any questions, but it's one thing to have assurances that a system is coming online. But if you are the family who has lost an elder and the family home was in his name and the spouse has deceased and the property goes into probate, the family members have to vacate that home. That family home then is padlocked, the windows are boarded shut, and in villages where you have no housing, you have a perfectly good housing that is then left to the elements, pipes freeze, things get, you can lose your homes. And so it's more than just the money, it's losing the opportunity to have a family home. So I've been pressing on this and raising it with every administration official so that it is reinforced that it's not just the high-tech world we want to know that these promises of modernization are coming, because right now nobody has seen the promise materialize into. The family now has the keys to the home again. The family now has a few dollars that they are able to pay off something that they have been waiting for. So know that this continues to be a very, very keen priority of mine and of many on the subcommittee, on the full committee here. I'm going to turn to Senator Hoeven, and then I'll have a couple more questions I haven't directed anything to you yet, Mr. Fulton. So you're not off the hook yet. All right, I'll let him look at his notes here. Let me ask you about sanitation funding cuts. The proposal is about $93 million below the FY26 enacted, and I get the comments there that unobligated Infrastructure and Jobs Act funding remains available, but as one who was instrumental in those IJA funds, that funding was intended to supplement base funding, not to replace it. So I know you're working hard. You're getting sanitation grants out. Let me tell you, the folks in Teller were super excited about the announcements there in Teller. They love the fact that you were out there. This is going to be transformational, and I think you know it. But you also know that there's huge unmet needs here. It's still troubling when I go out to so many of these villages, and we're talking about communities that are still relying on honey buckets, haul wagons, and this again is public safety, public health, when you don't have clean water and clean wastewater systems. So just give me the rationale. Maybe you hate it and you really can't give me a good reason for why you would reduce base funding. But I also need to know how you're going to continue making good progress on unmet sanitation needs once IJA funding is gone, because there's a cliff here. Believe me, I know all about the cliff. But if you're going to use it to help get you through this funding cycle, what do you do next year when we don't have that? Because I can't go back to communities and say, well, we were making some progress, Teller got money, but the rest of you folks, that funding pipeline is not there. So can you speak to the sanitation funding?
Well, thank you, Senator. You hit on a great point. There are sanitation facility needs across Indian country that are definitely challenging. It fundamentally comes down to the balancing act of in a tight budget environment. How do we prioritize? This was a prime opportunity to really invest in things that would revolutionize direct patient care. And so our priority at this time...
Let me just challenge you a little bit on that, because direct patient care. So I'm now sick and you're going to take care of me. Keep me from getting sick by making sure that I have sanitary conditions in my village, that I am able to wash my hands, bathe my kids. It's kind of the basic thing. So I get what you're saying, that we want to take care of people who get sick, but I think it's also a really basic human need that we have clean water.
There are definitely significant challenges. As you know, the goal was to continue to work on our 2,000 plus water sanitation projects that we have under IIJ currently, which includes $1.9 billion that's gone to Alaska over the last 4 years, and continue that process forward. But we know this is an issue that is important to members of this committee, important to tribes, and we're happy to provide any technical assistance we can with regards to this topic.
Well, I think we want more than technical assistance, because as I speak of this issue, my colleague from New Mexico has left the committee here this afternoon, but I hear that in many of the reservations, they are faced with the same challenges that we may have when it comes to running water and clean basic water and wastewater issues. So I hear you saying you made priorities. I know you've got to defend what is put in front of you, but know that from this senator's perspective, I don't think that we can go backwards. I don't think that we should be looking to the one-time funding opportunities that we put into place with IJA as what is going to carry us over. Those were designed to supplement because we were in such a hole that we needed to put billions of dollars towards it. We've made good headway, but we can't use that as the excuse not to continue a robust base funding for something as basic as clean water and wastewater. Okay, you're now teed up.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Secretary Kirkland, in 2020, I worked with Chairman Murkowski and others, and we put in place the funding for the Advanced Training Center at Camp Grafton in Devils Lake to help provide training for BIA law enforcement officers, because in the across the upper Midwest particularly, but throughout Indian country, we are not filling our BIA law enforcement positions. In 2021, or by 2021 already, the Advanced Training Center was providing training to over 3,000 law enforcement personnel on an annual basis. And in last year, for this year, we secured $2 million to support improving infrastructure there. And most recently, and actually I'm working on getting $3 million this year. It was $2 million last year. Also this month, Secretary Burgum signed a secretarial order implementing additional basic training options for police and corrections officers at the Indian Police Academy's Advanced Training Center at Camp Grafton. Please provide me with an update on how the department plans to use these new funds, as well as that executive order to support the operations and physical infrastructure at Camp Grafton and implement the basic training.
Well, sir, Senator, as you're well aware of, Antigua, New Mexico, is quite a long ways away from your neck of the woods. I mean, Antigua is a long way from Antigua, and there's not a lot there, and it's tough oftentimes for officers and folks that want to be BIA law enforcement officers to get there and be away from their families. So we're very excited about the progress that's been made at Camp Grafton. As a matter of fact, just recently, last month, I believe, we were able to hold the first graduation of our correction officers that are going to be going to tribal communities from Camp Grafton. In June or late June, early July, we'll be holding the first police officers training, tribal police officers training there. So we'll have a number of officers that are going to be going to either the Office of Justice Services within the BIA, or we'll be going to tribal law enforcement throughout Indian country to serve and protect Indian country. That graduation will be in September. So first and foremost, we're looking to make sure it's utilized to help train officers and do it in a way that we can have those officers trained places that are closer to the home, making it easy for them and for the states to get the law enforcement that they need.
Right. And so that's basic training in addition to the advanced training, so we can get more officers into the slot and continue to train them while they're doing the job, but get these slots filled across the country where we need them so badly.
Yes, sir, and we're going to continue. I know we're going to continue to work on that track for you as well.
Are there any specific facilities issues you want to bring up or mention?
Just in general, we're going to work on everything. We want to make sure that these are the best trained officers that are available, that they can get to their communities and best serve and protect.
We appreciate very much your work on it, and it fills a vital need just in terms of security for reservations across the country. So thank you for that. And then also, I worked with Secretary Cortez Masto, and we passed the Badges Act to again, try to expedite our ability to get people into a whole variety of law enforcement officers in Indian country, across the country. This helps every tribe across the country in terms of safety, security, and law enforcement. That it hasn't passed the House yet. Any thoughts that you can offer in terms of support maybe that can be provided by you and others that would help us advance the bill through the House so we get it in place.
First, Senator, I'd like to thank you for your work on the Badge Act. At Indian Affairs, we're going to be supportive of any and all legislation that helps better serve and protect Indian country, but also that helps make it easier to hire tribal police officers and OJS officers.
Well, that's it. It just will expedite that hiring
Yes, sir.
process. So, again, it's about getting law enforcement officials in these vacant slots, and vitally important. And then the last thing I want to ask you about is there's a road on Spirit Lake Reservation. It's called the Tetopa Four Winds High School Road. It's to the tribal school there, which, by the way, is a real power in basketball in our state. They're unbelievable. But it's not eligible for BIA road maintenance because it has not been added to the BIA road inventory. So how do you plan to consult with Spirit Lake Tribe to get this thing on the inventory and make sure that those young people can get to that school not only for their studies but also for those great basketball players so they can get back and forth to all their tournaments and continue to be very successful?
How far they make it this year in the state tournament?
I think they made it. They didn't win it this year, but they do fairly regularly, and they're always good.
All right, well, maybe if we can work on that road, they can win it next year. I know currently we manage and oversee about 30,000 miles of road at the BIA, and it's a problem everywhere. This road maintenance, lots of tribal schools and tribal communities, they don't necessarily have snow days. They have muddy road days. They have days where buses can't get down the road. So I know this is a priority for you and for tribal communities across Indian country, and we're happy to work with yourself and the tribe to get this road on the list.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I know it's challenging with all these roads, but this is for high school kids and their safety and everything, so it's really important.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, looks to me like there's no one else to ask any questions, so I think we'll go ahead and gavel out. Is there anything else that any of the three of you wanted to put on the record regarding any of the questions and testimony that you gave today? Mr. Fulton.
Thank you, Senator. One thing I would like to provide a little clarity on were with regards to a few of the programs that in some of the opening statements were described as being cut, specifically our scholarships, health professions, et cetera. There are a few of those programs that show decreases in the budget. However, those were not intended as policy-level decisions. When the budget was put together in December in the fall, there had not yet been an FY 2026 budget. So we had proposed increases for several of those programs, but Congress beat us to the punch and funded them more than what we had even planned. So that was one aspect that was brought up earlier that I think would be useful for the record in the committee.
Very good. Anything else?
Just thank you for your longstanding support.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo Senator as well. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the committee staff's work. I know that y'all put in a lot of hours to make your bosses look good up here with questions and research.
Thank you, Secretary. Ms. Curtis, anything? Okay. Very good. Then members may also submit follow-up written questions for the record, and the hearing record will be open for 2 weeks. Again, thanks to all the witnesses. We appreciate you being here, and we are adjourned.